Chipper, and 1A, We Are Family. Scratch 1 and 1A. A rider change on the 12, Queen Dave to Heman Harkey. Heman Harkey will ride the 12, and the following horses are 2 pounds over. Numbers 2, 3, 5, 8, 10, and 11. We're fast and we're firm with an Empire 6 jackpot carryover of $400,000. We'll be back at 12:45 to recap the changes. First race post is at 1:15. Up next, it's the Thursday edition of Talking Horses with Andy Serling and Anthony Stabile.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Talking Horses. Andy Serling, soon to be joined by Anthony Stabile. It is Thursday, the final week here at the Belmont Park meeting. 4-day weekend, of course, going through Sunday. Monomoy Girl, the featured attraction on Saturday's card, the 3-year-old champion of 2018, making her return to Belmont Park. Returned to Belmont Park as she won the Acorn here in 2018. Anyhow, you know the drill. If you're not a member of Naira Bets, no better time than the present to sign up. Saratoga just around the corner. We'll match up to a $200 deposit. Use the promo code MATCH200. New members only. Head to NairaBets.com for much more information. As promised, he's here. The man, myth, and legend, the great Anthony Stabile. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. I haven't shrunk.
I can't. If I shrunk, you wouldn't see me.
Whoever has more lunches gets to sit higher. That's the deal.
You can't tell looking at it on TV. Actually, not really. That's a different. It's a different perspective because the camera's looking down on us. We are not on our other set. We've been Anthony and I, if you haven't noticed, have been doing the. That's true. We've been doing it on our secondary set, but we're moving things up to Saratoga. So we're here. We're here in the big set this week. I will be.
I only get you 2 days this week.
I will be here this day, and Acacia, I believe, is going to be on with you on Saturday and Sunday.
An A-Train reunion for you HRN fans. We started things back in 2015 doing that show together, and
wow,
we'll be back together for the Saturday and Sunday closing weekend here at beautiful Belmont Park. Can't believe it's gone already. 1, 2, 3.
You know, it was obviously a shorter meet, and it's been great being here. Obviously, great back racing, and we've got 9 races to talk about today. We'll start with today's first race, where I imagine that Alda. You know, I saw Alan Alda recently.
Did you really?
I saw him at lunch. Well, not that recently. Before lunch is shut down.
In the big city?
I did see him, actually. He was sitting right by me at lunch. Alda is in the back of the pack. Makes a big run. Let me ask you, Anthony, was this a bit of loosery because the pace was collapsing and really the pace was totally falling apart at the end?
Yes, I believe it's a combination of a couple of things. One, when you're making up this much ground as a 2-year-old, there's obviously some talent there. But yeah, the fact that the race was coming back to her, she did take on the boys that day. She'll be taking on fellow fillies this afternoon.
Will that make it easier or harder?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know if necessarily makes it easier.
But she made up a lot of ground. Did she get helped by the collapse? Absolutely. But like I said, I'm always impressed when young horses make up that much ground, regardless of whether they're getting help up front or not. It was only 5/8. She gets an extra eighth of a mile today.
No, I couldn't agree more with you. She obviously did run well. And the thing is that normally horses like that, and 2-year-olds especially, but even some 3-year-olds, the first-time stars that lag as much as she did, and she lagged because the pace was fast, they have a little more speed in their next starts. Not necessarily going to help her chances, but she'll probably be more professional.
And we're not saying she's going to be on top of a pace, but she's probably not going to be 15 off of it.
Right. Well, they probably won't be going quite as quickly, but I agree. They tend to just be a little bit more into the race. Not always the case, though. I went to Wesley Ward's horse, Steal My Sunshine. 2 out of 3 horses from the dam were solid turf runners, sprinters as well, very, very good. Conquest Panthera actually comes from this dam.
Maniacal as well.
Maniacal, another horse. Eddie Keneally has, I think Keneally has Maniacal back, right? Maniacal sort of made the rounds.
Still running.
Yeah, definitely still running. And now, the one thing that bothered me a little bit, the foal to this horse was a nice horse, but was also a dirt horse, as opposed to dirt horse, because Distorted Humor, the good turf horses were Kitten's Joys.
Yes.
So it's not that Distorted Humor is not a decent turf influence, but he's not as good a turf influence as a Kitten's Joy.
He's not Kitten's Joy, obviously, right. Yeah, but this horse makes a lot of sense. Wonder if this horse is named after the Len song from about 20 years ago.
The who?
There was a summer song called Steal My Sunshine by the group Len. One-hit wonder, grunge-esque era. I wonder if it was named after the Len song.
You're a veritable font of information, I should say. Franco at Ascot. I don't know anything about this horse, but I think you have to respect the pedigree in this horse coming from Mark Cassian. They had a nice 2-year-old winner here last year in the turf. They can win these turf sprints, Mark.
Yeah, one of four Sibs won on the turf, 316,000, 3-time winner. That was overseas though, so we'll see what the daughter of Franco brings to the table first time out.
And Illegal Smile comes out of a race for Wesley Ward, the 4-horse at Churchill Downs. I wanted to bring this up because Toby's Heart, who won that race, if you're not familiar with Toby's Heart, get familiar with this horse. It's a Brian Lynch horse, and I'm going to say, so far in all the 2-year-olds that I've seen, this horse impressed me more than any of them. Now, it was obviously on the turf. Terry Hamilton, who owned Heart to Heart, owns this horse as well, with Brian. I think with Brian. And if you can watch the replay of this race on June 4th, just to see Toby's Heart, and that pace did fall apart a bit, but Toby's Heart got completely left. And that was, I'm telling you, I recommend to people, if you can, and if you play through Naira Bets, you can watch the replays there. That is a race worth watching, because that horse is good.
Yeah, in fact, when you're on the app, all you have to do is hit Illegal Smiles name, and then the replay pops up. You just go right to the replay and hit it.
Wow. You're just one race in, and
when
it's
I'm
like,
in the booth,
I mean, the nuggets that are flying out from you.
When I'm in the booth and I need a pronunciation, it's very simple to do that way when you're running a little late or forgot to do a name.
Frank called me as
That's a Frank Miramati trip,
by the way. Called me as they were, I think, heading to the gate to see if I could help him with the pronunciation of a horse the other day.
I was sitting with you.
That was funny.
Yes.
Anyhow, race number 2, a major scratch, was Stony Bennett coming out. It was an odd drop for Roddy Valente and Linda Rice, and I kind of wondered about it myself. I was going to take a shot against this horse. I'll be honest with you, Anthony. I think the edge in this race is to bet against the horse that you have on top. I do not like Javelin today. I'm not saying he can't win, but I don't like this horse.
I didn't know what to do in here, Andy. I'll be honest with you. I took a long, hard look at putting Swiping Dan on top of here at one point. I really did.
I don't think he's a terrible.
He's certainly a horse I want to use in my pick 4s and pick 5s.
That horse has run some races. I agree. He's a little interesting.
He's an interesting horse. You know, you look at the horses he's run against. You know, this is a 10, right? If we're being honest, if we wrote races for less than 10, these horses would be in for less than 10. This is the bottom.
Well, I don't know about that.
Okay.
But okay.
I do feel like Swiping Dan ran in some races for 12, 5, and 16 that would exponentially tougher than this spot.
What basically, Anthony, what I think what you're getting at, and I agree with this philosophy. In the old days, you know, back in the 80s, let's say, in the early 90s, the lowest.
Feel old when you say the old days with the 80s.
At that period in time was 14,000.
Right.
And we used to have a saying back then, first time 14. And the point that Anthony's making is, when they're running for 20 or 16 or saying 12.5, that's where they are. It's kind of like the grading on a curve with tests. When they run for the bottom level price, they're worth somewhere in that case between 0 and the level, and they could, if they ran out of town, run for lower prices. It's kind of the grading on a curve. You know, why do classes grade on curves? You don't want to give a test where multiple people get 100, because everybody that gets 100 doesn't have the exact same level of knowledge. You want to give a test where the highest score is 80 even, to find out where people really are. And I think it's a very similar concept to the lowest level of clearing price. That's what you're alluding to.
Yeah, that is what I'm alluding to. Andy said it a little more eloquently than I did.
I'm on top of my game so far. I'm not wearing the
heavy jacket. You got no jacket.
After I brought the winter jacket at the track.
Jacket's off. You're a little higher than me. Yeah, you have the edge today.
I feel like I have real leverage on you right now. And very rarely do I have leverage on anybody over 7. So I'm taking advantage of that today. I agree. I think that Vincero is a logical horse in this race in a lot of ways, and I'm surprised. I thought the one Vincero would be your kind of horse, because I mean, you're kind of water obsessed, and this is a horse who, yes, I know is in a different barn, but this is a horse who appears to be better when there isn't moisture in the track.
Yeah.
So I thought Vincero was a little interesting in here and could be forward in a race where he and Tipsy Moose are the speeds now without Stony Bennett. I like Money Meister. I'm hoping that Kendrick is very much in the game in this race, and I think on the drop down, this horse is just very logical in this spot, and I thought was very much the horse to beat, and I thought should be favored, and because Irad is riding the 8 more than anything else, the 8's going to be favored, and I don't think should be favored over Money Meister.
Makes a ton of sense. Like I said, if I had any chutzpah, I would have put, if I had any courage, I'd have put Swiping Dan on top of me. I'm going to use the 3 of them, maybe a little tail and I don't even know what I was thinking with tail and this one. Maybe Vincero. The Vincero races are out of town.
Vincero's got Anthony Stabile written all over it. I honestly, when I first looked at that horse, I said, this is going to be Anthony's kind of horse. You're going to have this horse run too. I mean, and I actually think it's at least relevant in this case. Race number 3. Race number 3 is an odd race, 1.25 miles, because they're really outside of the horse that you and I have on top, Ebony. And hold off on the stat for 1 second, if you don't mind. There's just no form in this race. I mean, I feel like sort of the 2 is what does the Shark say, is going to be more forward than the number 5 Hungry Kitten, and that's why I preferred her. But neither one of them are just that good, and that's why Ebony, and we'll show you the stat for Grand Motion, just feels like if she can run it all, isn't she supposed to win?
If she can run a little bit, she is going to beat these horses, and she's going to beat them pretty thoroughly. And you know, you look at her form overseas, and she's just supposed to beat these horses. I mean, she got beat less than 4 lengths to a repeat winner in the Prix de Diane. And I understand. You know, the one thing that bugged me about her was they tried her on the all-weather last time. That was the one thing that bugged me about her. They went back to the all-weather. I don't know.
Maybe it was the race.
She won on the all. Her only win came on the all-weather.
Yeah. Yes, the concern is she's never won a race in the turf. I agree. The likelihood that she's running against better horses today seems fairly small.
It's almost impossible, right?
Here's my question
she had to
to
have
you.
Faced better.
I'm not doing this to make a bet with you. What's the appropriate over/under on the half in this race on a very firm inter-turf course?
I mean, what does a Shark say was absolutely crawling on the front end last time. And I do wonder if the way to win this race, what's the half? The half, on paper, the half's going to go on 51. If what does a Shark say to win this race, I think you just have to try to build an insurmountable lead. I think you just have to try and put her in front, open up 3 or 4 lengths, and just hope that Ebony
she's not
leads
really
the race.
Faster than Wicked Amber or No Mo Temper, who's coming off a long
and
layoff.
you don't know what you don't know what the rider on the one's going to do. These horses that appear to be big long shots, you never know what kind of shot they're going to take. Yeah, if somebody wants to try to bottom this field out, I have no problem with it. It just looks to me like Hungry Kitten, who I think would be the alternative to the alternative. She just has no speed, Andy.
I loved her damn Hungry Island.
Say that one more time.
I loved Hungry Island, the dam of Hungry Kitten.
Yeah, she was great. She was fantastic. But
she's great. But
what's she supposed to do here? I mean, she's going to come from the moon.
I think,
and she's not going to get really her kind of setup.
I think what you have to be careful with is taking your horses too much out of their game and trying to outsmart yourself. She is who she is. One of the reasons that Shug's running her longer, I would assume, is that as they stretch out and the paces get slower, she will be naturally more in the race.
She draws into the race, right, of course.
And I think that's one of the reasons.
And she's a kitten's joy. You know, she's
just been a disappointment.
She's underachieved, to say the least. But maybe she gets some more real estate. Like you said, the pace is a little slower. Maybe they don't run away from her, and she's 5 lengths off the lead instead of 15 lengths off the lead.
She might be 3 lengths off the lead in this race. And I think that one of the reasons it should probably, I would guess, I don't know for sure, I can't, maybe opportunity, there's more opportunities for the turf routes here in New York, especially at Belmont Park, is that her pedigree isn't screaming for more distance. Because Hungry Island wasn't really she was a mile 16, mile and eighth maybe. She won that Lake Placid in the rain over Winter Memories. Winter Memories did a terrible trip.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, Hungry Island was one of my favorites. I always just really liked her. Anyhow, you don't ever want to just assume a horse is going to win. And I think if you're playing pick 5s, you probably want to have the 2 and 5 in there somewhere. I don't know what to do with the 6, say, the Mood. I didn't like that horse, but I guess maybe she could run better, but I didn't get her.
The wild card is the 3. Is No Mo Temper. I mean, you have the same 4 picks here. The wild card's No Mo Temper. We haven't seen it for 18 months. You know, what do you do with her?
But she's not even good enough if she's the horse she once was.
Well, but it is 2-year-old form. And obviously something went wrong because she's been gone for a long time. She's the wild card, but I think you have to take the approach that you and I took and pitch her. Or you have to be. She has to be your second horse.
Let me say, and I could be completely wrong about this. My guess is, like any horse coming off a long layoff,
she needed a race.
She needed a race.
It's a mile
and
and a
they kind
quarter.
of hustled her a little. They probably thought, the spot's coming up. It's not that she's not ready to run. I could be completely wrong, but I think as a handicapper, you have to think about situations and make your best guess. I mean, listen.
Horse that didn't run as a 3-year-old has to go a mile and a quarter off an 18-month layoff.
They do it in Europe all the time.
Yeah.
Race number 4. Race number 4 at 6.5 furlongs. I just thought Allure Fortune was much the worst to beat, and here we picked the same 2 horses. I don't. Jeremiah, did I put the stats for Jeremiah, guys? I did. Jeremiah has tremendous numbers, maiden special weight to maiden claimer with New York breds, and these are I think these horses were primarily running at Naira, if not completely. So it's not like he compiled those stats at Finger Lakes. Good numbers. And I don't know. Where are you going to go with this horse, right?
Exactly.
55 Buyer first time out. Didn't run particularly well returning in a race dominated in the front end. It was a very strong maiden race. I think that Jeremiah's just running her where she belongs.
Yeah. I think you realize when you run her against them, and she was 3-1 against that field last time. That was a good field.
I thought she was very dangerous in there.
I picked her.
And I think a lot of us were hoping that Frenzy Freedom race was a better race than it was, Anthony. It wasn't. Frenzy Freedom's just not that good either.
Puts the blinkers back on, second off the long break, drops her in. Again, we talk about this a lot now. She almost makes too much sense, right? She just makes a lot of sense in here.
I do want to show Central Exit. It's race 2 back where she finished second, because I don't think she's impossible off of this effort. And last time out, she did chase outside against a gold rail, so I can make an excuse for her last start. And she's off the claim for John Terranova. You don't see John claim that often. He's just 1 for 9 off the claim over 5 years. But I want to also point out that Tom Morley did claim this horse for 10 strike. I have no idea how long this horse and what the circumstances are. This horse is in John Terranova's barn. But this horse was originally claimed by Tom, but obviously because of the pandemic, the horse couldn't run back. I don't think this horse is totally impossible.
A little curious this horse isn't in for the waiver. I'm a little surprised by that.
You make a great point.
Maiden, especially as a maiden. A maiden who's actually been active at the claim box. She's run 5 times. In 3 of those starts, she's been eligible to be claimed. She was claimed twice. It leads me to believe maybe she has some residual. I didn't look it up. Maybe she has some residual value as a broodmare. I don't know. But the fact that she's not in for the waiver, I think, is a big negative when she's eligible for it.
Good point. Madam Deputy for Brad Cox. We have a stat for Brad, the first-time starter. Believe it or not, Brad Cox, who never loses, he swept the 2 big stakes, the Oaks and the Derby at Indiana last night. First-time starters and maiden claimers. This is all around. What I found interesting is that 13 a year for Brad Cox. Oh, this is awful. I need a new earpiece box. Just that he's only run like 13 a year, right? You'd think he'd run more often. But not great numbers.
Or it just means he runs a lot of horses and maiden special weight first. This guy runs a million firsters, it feels like.
The other thing that caught my attention, this horse is a Constitution, who's been really the hottest freshman sire there was.
No question about it.
And 5 of the 6 foals from this dam were really good. So why is this horse running for 40 first time? Yeah.
I'm not going to let her beat me if I'm playing pick 4s, pick 5s. But, yeah, I mean, that stat's not a great stat.
Beliza?
Sure, got to do some Beliza. I learned at least this morning that she is a half to one of the young Frankenstein horses.
Oh, she's a half to Frau Blucher.
Yeah.
Is that good or bad?
I don't think.
It's bad.
I don't know. I think it's bad.
So the other horses start loudly whinnying when she comes around. Race number 5. I'm not sure who's going to be favored in here, because when you look at race number 5, this horse is kind of supposed to be favored. CC Rider, also known as a song people went to the bathroom during when the Grateful Dead played it. As more information than you probably, because it's just tiresome. There was a time when they used to play Little Red Rooster and CC Rider on alternate nights back in the 80s. It was really painful.
Painful?
It was painful. This horse's turf races are just faster than these, Anthony.
I was kind of disappointed with myself when I was done doing the card.
Century beat this horse. Century's pretty good. Sorry.
I was kind of disappointed when I finished this card because I realized I played the role of chalk-eating weasel most of the day today. But there are a lot of instances where we're sitting up here.
There's a lot of chalks up here.
There's a lot of instances where we're sitting up here and these races kind of have 3 or 4 horses that are running similar figures. And there are a couple instances today, and this is one of them where he's just faster than these horses. I mean, there's no other way around this.
But
the races are just faster. You got to figure whether or not Tricky Magician goes. Johnny's going to be laying second or going to be in front of Tricky Magician. He's supposed to work out a good trip on or near the lead, and that's really it.
I can't argue with any of that. And to be fair, if you look at the drop, I mean, the horse ran obviously an off the turf 40. It's a 5-year-old gelding.
Yeah, where are you going to go with him?
What non-winners of 2 races this horse going to? He's going to spend the year. I mean, he tried to go to Colonial Downs to win a non-winners do. He lost to Century. With all due respect, Century's a nice horse, but he's no world beater. And
now,
he's got to run him where he can win.
And along the lines of Ebony, this horse has never won on the turf. So it's 0-for-3 on the turf.
Figures,
so
sir.
I understand a little trepidation, but the horses this horse has been facing would tear this field from limb to limb.
Well, no. Hang on one second. Unless another gets back to his good form. And I was a little shocked that you didn't have another in your top 4. This is Gulfstream Park, and another is absolutely buried in traffic here. And Tyler basically, he tries to keep moving forward, hoping somebody's going to open up, and the horse moving forward, but there's just never anywhere to go whatsoever for this horse. And this came after an effort at Ackerman on November 29th when another was about, I don't know, 3 lengths the best probably, and had just one of the worst trips imaginable. That was a race where a number of horses, I got to take this out of my ear, guys. A number of horses had bad trips, and the winner got very, very fortunate. So it's not as though another hasn't run well. And I know the Mercantile Cousin Brossi Martin hasn't had much success on turf, but they did fine with this horse and should have won that race at Aqueduct. And the barn that had it last time at Gulfstream doesn't exactly have a stellar win percentage. So I think it's a very positive switch to get back to this barn. And this is a horse that at one time had figures that could beat the favorite.
He did.
The only problem with him is that everyone likes him. I like him. Beer likes him. Aragona likes him, but the reason we like him is he's very obvious, and I think he and CC Ryder will vie for favoritism.
You know, you say all the time, I think the reason to bet this race is because you don't like you said you didn't like Javelin really earlier. I don't like this horse today. I just think he was going the wrong way for Bill. I don't know how good he really ever was.
He's run 2 straight winning races. He's run 2 straight winning races, and
I can't argue that, but that's, I think, brings you to the last point. A horse like him, for some reason, I don't remember him being as slow as he's been early in his last 2 races.
Well, I think that Jose will probably have him a little bit closer today because the pace won't be that hot. I think the pace has kept him a little farther back in those races. So I don't expect this horse to be that far back, especially based in the field. I worry a little about Quiet Out East coming back. I know he beat a subpar field with a good trip last time out, but Brad Cox has wild numbers off of wins in turf routes and claiming races.
That's a lot of horses, too.
It's unbelievable.
That's a big sample. That's a big sample, and that's you're not winning. The ROI is what it is with a barn that wins at the rate he wins at.
Well, the ROI it still means the horses are paying $7. They're not horses that are paying $3.
43%.
Scary.
It's insane.
It suggests that they come off of wins and they run as well. They run really better in their next starts, to be honest with you. Now, so I don't want to discount this horse because he's got better recent form than any of these horses have.
He does.
Except for another.
He does. He does. And
though he hasn't run
the race
months.
last time out, look, I have a bad taste in my mouth with Shooting the Breeze, who just really has been underachieving, and Albie hasn't run particularly well.
There were trips in there. There was a horse that probably should have won, the horse on the rail that got a bad trip, the Jimmy Bond horse.
Jimmy Bond horse, yeah.
But having said that, I don't want to dismiss a horse that's coming off a win at least. You've got horses in here like War Film, and I got it with War Film, and I'm not saying he can't win it, but he may just not be able to run anymore.
He might. And same can be said for Uhtred. He just might not be.
He was brutal last time.
He was brutal last time.
He was coming off a layoff, but he was brutal, as was Channel Island. Maybe he'll run better Channel Island, though I still think he wants more distance. But I got trouble with all these horses.
Yeah. Channel Island could want more distance as well. It's weird. I think you kind of had to do where we went. You were with another, and maybe you were with another or against another. I obviously am against, and I think I felt the same about Quiet Out East. I think I'd rather see what some of the horses out of the Spirit Animal race can do without having him in there.
But they didn't do any running. The reason that Spirit Animals race looked as impressive as it was because absolutely nobody showed up whatsoever.
Maybe.
And I'm not saying they can't run better, and maybe they will run better.
A lot of them were coming off a bit of a break and maybe needed a race to knock the rust off a little bit. So,
but man, they could have done a little bit of
running.
They
could have done a little bit of running.
I mean, Uhtred was.
I mean, they also
Uhtred was what rhymes with his name.
But they were also a fifth of a second off the track record. So.
Oh, so what? Track record.
Yeah, but I mean, it was a very fast turf course, and horses haven't run in 5, 6, 7 months.
Buyer. He didn't get a 110
No, I understand that, but I mean, a 93 buyer for that field?
But Uhtred got a 71 buyer in a turf race where that's unacceptable.
No, listen, I can't argue it. I'm hoping a couple of horses needed the race and can move forward.
I'm only 5, 6, 9 in this race, and mostly 5 and 9.
Okay.
Race number 6. A lot going on in here. Let's start with Back Channel, who's 5 and 2 in the morning line. Because you like this horse, I don't. I could see using him, though I'm not really thrilled to. I think this was a very poor field where a Chad Brown horse that was a heavy favorite, more because there was nobody else in the race that was that much. And I honestly think she got second by default. I think a lot of people are going to see that second-time Linda Rice thing, and I don't know if I want to trust it in this situation.
You could be right. You could be right. I don't really have much of a defense. Second-time Linda, showed speed first out. I think the Chad horse is going to be okay, but I could be wrong.
We'll get to it, Orsay.
No. Primacy.
Primacy's not going to be okay.
Well,
but
again,
Primacy, if you're interested, maybe you should talk about a friends that are making a purchase.
Again, I'm not saying I'm right. I'm saying that's my opinion. It's second time Linda. Horse has some speed. I like the fact that she went 6.5 first time out, and I think it'll help her get the 7 a little better this time around. Am I in love with Back Channel? No.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan. I'm not shocked. I won't be shocked if she wins. The Chad Brown horse in here, Orsay, this will be interesting because I know that they were high on this horse. Mm-hmm. Now, she was scratched in the post parade in Saratoga, and she came back at 3-5, and she stunk.
Awful.
And it does seem like these OXO horses in general, the ones that have been money burners of maidens have continued to be money burners as maidens. And I know he tried the turf, which seems sort of weird with this horse. Dirt is probably the right surface.
Well, I think a lot of people see the American Pharaoh and they automatically think they need to give the turf a try because of the success early on the grass.
Yeah, but if you really thought this was a dirt horse, which they obviously did, you don't jump to the turf for the second start.
I'm just telling you why I think the horse.
I understand, but that's more of a move in race start number 3 or 4 when the horse has proven to you that she can't run the dirt. Now, maybe there was no dirt maiden race coming up, and he didn't want to run the horse in Florida, and he thought he'd give the winner off, and he just thought he'd take a shot before the end of the year, and there wasn't a dirt race coming up. That's always possible.
I mean, look, and like you said, a lot of these OXO horses, professional maiden's the wrong term, but they lose 4, 5, 6 in a row.
That get bet first time out. It's one thing to run second, run a big figure, and run to a top horse. She did no running. She did no running in either of her starts. She chased Summer Fortune and just completely gave up.
Right.
Now, I really like Harlem Heights in here. And in my opinion, if Harlem Heights even runs as well as she did last time out, she will beat this field. If she improves, as you would expect, from 2 to 3, then I think she's just almost a cinch in here. I don't know how big her price will be, but her last race is very, very good. Some may remember that pace completely and totally incinerated in there. For what it's worth, the other speed I think finished last, went from a 59 buyer to a 0. And another one, looking at another speed, a Mott horse. Here's the speed figures the Mott horse ran in her career. Her first 2 starts, she ran a 63 and a 68. Then she was involved in the pace with Harlem Heights and ran a 40. Then she came back and ran a 64, 65, and 78. So, you're talking about horses who were running 30 points lower easily than because they were involved in the pace. Yet Harlem Heights, she ran well in there. So I don't think it's impossible. It's wrong to say that she ran a figure that could have been in the 80s had it been more pace-based. I think she's pretty good, and I think Harlem Heights, if she's ready, and she's got to be ready, but if she is, I think she'll be very tough.
I don't think you have to worry too much about Shug having her ready. But it is
7/8. Ready. It's a question of whether or not she'll need a start. A lot of these horses need starts.
It is 7/8, but she does have the nice outside draw. She has Jose Ortiz to check how this thing's going to unfold to his inside.
Did Match Pass win her debut at 7? I think Country Hideaway did. Maybe I'm mixing them up.
Yeah. She makes a ton.
Look at Greg Wolf, very casual. Very casual.
Greg Wolf, 2 times in a week I see Greg.
Greg has a fan.
Yeah.
I'm a Greg Wolf fan because Greg Wolf has a fan.
That's good. You're good.
You can crawl under there if you want.
You can crawl. You can do it.
You're a star, Greg. If you want to wait a minute, we'll show a replay for the next race.
This is like a Saw movie right now.
Papa Chalk?
Papa Chalk.
You ever see that movie? What's the movie The Way Back? I love that movie. Pop and Lock. That's what they call it. Oh, it's good. With Sam
Shepard?
No.
Elliott?
No. Anyway.
Kinnison?
Greg, you want to help him?
I
Chuck Barris in Dangerous Mind. He used to sublet a friend of mine's apartment, actually.
How did I not know that?
His apartment. Greg knows who my friend was. That's not who the actor is. It's got, anyway, whatever.
This is like a bad.
This horse, you know, Mark
it's like
Cassie,
bad pyramid
Mark
right now.
Cassie has won with some horses going turf to dirt, but this horse ran twice.
This was the half to Air Force who won the KJC. Was on the Derby Trail a few years back. They didn't
Wasn't
run
he
this
more of
horse.
a dirt horse, a turf horse, Air Force?
He was everything because they were still all weather races back then. He kind of ran well on all those surfaces. Didn't run this horse on dirt first time out. A couple of turf tries early on. Now he moves to dirt. I don't know. This might be get a race into this horse for Saratoga.
Or run well today.
Or
Interesting
run well
race.
today, yeah.
Race number 7. We'll go to the replay center so Greg can set the fan up. We'll take a look at No Word, who you have third and I have on top, and we'll talk about this a bit. I'm going to tell you something. If No Word runs back to this race, he can't lose this race. The horses he's running against here are so much better than the horses he's running against today that I don't think it's even funny. And in my opinion, I don't like picking favorites. He's very obvious, but I think he is just way. And if Assiduously beats him today, what odds do you want that he finishes behind Assiduously, who you have picked second?
What do you mean?
Did you have Assiduously?
I do.
Assiduously, if it wasn't Chad Brown and Irad Ortiz, would be 50 to 1 in this race.
Yeah. So what do you want to give? You want to give me 2 to 1?
Yes.
2 beats 5?
Yeah, I'll give you 6 to 3.
I'll take that.
We're at 47, and I've got 6 to 3 lunches.
Dying to get it to
5
50.
over 2.
Okay. I'll take that. I didn't know.
Greg left out of embarrassment.
I didn't know. I think Greg likes the same horse I did. I think Greg put up a 3 just now in that race.
I definitely didn't put up a 2.
I didn't know what to do with No Word. No Word's got the nice pedigrees, the half the Silencio, and maybe, you know, I don't know what he wants to do. I don't know if he really wants the 1 1/8. I don't know. I don't think he wanted
He won a mile and a quarter last time.
Yeah,
he ran the best race he's ever run against horses that would be 2 to 5 and 3 to 5 in this race.
They would be very short in this race. Maybe he wants more. Listen.
But
I don't know
he's
what to
run
do with
fine
him.
a mile and a mile 16th and a mile and a quarter. So why are you worrying about? I mean, not to be too hard on you, but why are you worrying about distance with him? That seems like a distraction.
I'm worried about the fact that this horse to me doesn't really seem to do any real running in his races.
Anthony's lost to some pretty decent
I know
horses.
he has, but I don't feel like he's really taking part in these events.
He'll do no running in here and still beat Assiduously.
Maybe.
But, okay.
Maybe.
So you like On Base. Go ahead.
Look, I had a tough time with this race. I knew I was not picking No Word because I kind of have this preconceived notion about No Word, which is the worst thing you could do when you look at your racing form. But I kind of feel like if he's going to be in here and be a short price, I got to go looking around.
Yeah, I think he'll be even money or 6 to 5.
Yeah, he's got to be that short, right?
Be 2 to 1.
He's got to be around
no way
even
he's 2
money.
to 1.
Right, I agree. This horse,
and he shouldn't be.
He probably shouldn't be. On Base ran like a horse who absolutely needed his first start. Absolutely needed his first start. They put the blinkers on second time. He took some money. He adapted and he aired. I know it was at Tampa. He's been off a few months now.
Sensation improved off that race, but 2 races later, not his next start.
Well, he won, but then, like you said,
it wasn't a particularly good race.
Right. It was not. It was a. That was a weak punch.
I didn't like this horse, but I hear you. I hear you. I mean, listen, who knows? He's just sort of an unknown. I thought Buy Me Candy was the other horse in this race, and I'm going to use 5 as a little 6. This was supposed to move over Miami. It was not bad. This is his last start down at Churchill, and
this is Bill Mott's 5,000th win as Moon Over Miami comes storming home here.
Somebody here bet him.
Belmont Stakes Day. Yeah, one of us. The amazing thing is, one of us bet him and one of us didn't, because one of us was too busy getting ready for radio that day.
Oh, stop! I'm going to cry.
Yep, I didn't have Belmont's 5,000 winner. Horse ran well.
But you had.
But I buried the 14 before that.
Before 999.
I buried the 14 before that,
really
Bill, but I did not bet Moon Over Miami.
I did feel bad.
Yeah.
He was coming off a couple of bad trips.
I think, and I almost put Assiduously on top, for the simple fact that if the blinkers can help this horse put this together,
in this race,
if the blinkers could help put the horse together, I'm not thrilled with any of these.
Do you know
horses.
how bad Assiduously's last race was?
Yeah,
honestly?
that wasn't good.
Okay, do you know why it was really particularly bad?
Why is that?
Because the pace completely and totally fell apart, and he could barely pick up third in that race.
Well,
there's an idiot up here that bet him last time.
He's getting a brand new.
Not you.
He's getting a brand new pair. I bet him too. He's getting a brand new.
There are two idiots.
He's getting a pair of blinkers. He's getting a router.
Do you really think that Chad is putting blinkers on for anything other than desperation?
I don't know why he's putting the blinkers
desperation.
on. I don't think Chad Brown's the kind of guy who gets desperate after three starts.
After you buy that other the maiden breaker, you might want to inquire about the availability of Deciduously after today's race. Though your price may go down. What about some others? What about Our Country, who was terrible last time, I thought?
I'm going to tell you what. If he was terrible last time, he was worse 2 starts back.
Yeah. What happened to him? But let me say something about him. The only reason I would put him in here, the Weaver horses are running.
They're all running.
So maybe they just weren't running as well down there. I don't know. But he was a horse that looked like he could be okay when he broke his maiden.
He did 0 running in
he was
these 2
fine in the
starts.
Pilgrim.
He
was
did
brutal.
no running this year. This is a horse where you can argue, and I know his numbers.
What if he hated Florida?
You can argue that his races last year are better than his. They're faster than his races this year.
You couldn't argue
it's
it.
Not even
They're
close.
a fact.
If he wins, I'm probably tearing.
I'm going to use 5, some 6. I think your point about No Word is a fair one, Anthony. That he doesn't.
He's going to be a big. He's going to be a big chalk too.
Have a winning look to him, but I think it's also fair to say he's been running in some better fields than these.
He has.
Well, you know, Will Sing for Wine. I could have cashed a big bet that my friend David Aragona would pick this horse. I know you see Sling Spiel. Dan was 0-5 in the turf, but she didn't hit on the turf, but she was a better dirt horse. I'll tell you something. I looked up Bill Mott's record with first-time turf, non-maidens. He's 2 for a lot, 2 for 41, I think. Both winners were square prices. They were like 12-1 and 13-1. But guys like Bill Mott, they usually run in the turf as maidens when they turn out to be turf horses. Now, I know Moon Over Miami didn't win first time in the turf, but you know, he ended up going to the turf with him. But in general, I don't like the first time in the turf move with non-maidens. Usually it's more of an act of desperation. It's not to say he couldn't improve and win. Oh, he's ridiculous.
Well, I think it depends on the barn, but that's also kind of the old school mentality, right?
I don't think it matters that much in the barn. I think in general, they, you know, because it's probably mostly due to the fact that most horses aren't equally talented on both surfaces. Race number 8. Mrs. Danvers will show her return race last time out, where she finished second to a very strong Chad Brown runner. Anthony, I don't think we need to spend a lot of time in this race. I'm guessing you have her on top as well.
I do. I actually think this is a cold 5-2 in here, and Mrs. Danvers is going to chase after.
We're going to bet separate
Indian
lunches on 2 horses here.
I'm going to try to run down Indian Pride here. It wasn't happening. Mrs. Danvers, though, she certainly seems to have found. Yeah, perfect return. Nice prep. Going from 6.5 to the mile.
This looks like a prep for the Alabama, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
I hope you didn't bet a laundry yesterday at Indiana.
I made a small pick 4.
I was live, and I couldn't have the horse
I
to win the race
24
before.
And got back 38.
Okay. What are the prices here? 2-1 on the 2. I'll take 2-1. I'll take 2-1 on each of these bets. 2 lunch to 1. I'll take the 6 beats the 2, and I'll take the 1A beats the 2.
Done.
2-1 on each.
Sure.
1 lunch.
1 lunch? Okay.
1 lunch each.
Yep.
So you can win 2 lunches. I don't like Grand Cru Class. I don't like that race. I don't want her stretching out to a mile. I'm not a fan.
You don't want her stretching out to a mile?
Nope. Don't want this horse.
She's going to sit off excess capacity.
I don't care. I think excess capacity is going to run a lot better. I know she was awful.
I know you do.
This is a barn that has a tremendous numbers off the claim. Off the claim overall in Nair, they've been 14 for 56. Not as good with routers, but more wins lately. They hadn't been winning. I think she's going to run better. I think Maiden Beauty's fine in here. My feeling here is I not only like Mrs. Danvers, I do not like Grand Cru Class.
Well,
who won the slot at almost 7-1 last time.
Then you can find a way to make some money in here, my friend, because they're going to be. You would have to think the great Johanna's going to take some money and be the 3rd choice in here. I think you're going to, you could Dutch the exactas and still be in a really good spot.
As much as I respect David's lines, I'm going to be surprised if she's as low as 2-1.
No, I think Mrs. Danvers will be. I think the 2 and the 3 will be closer on the board than David has them on the line.
I think the 2 will be closer to a lot of horses, but we'll see if it works out that way. But Mrs. Danvers, I think we agree, she looks tough to beat.
She looks like she's a stakes horse running against horses that probably aren't stakes horses.
Well, you think the 2's might you have.
I think the 2's okay, but I think that Mrs. Danvers and the 2 there's a big gap between the 2 of them.
Race number 9. We'll take a look at Come Storming, horse that you and I both have on top. And at the end of the day, isn't Come Storming just coming out of a more competitive race last time?
Third example of the day where she's just faster than these horses. Yeah, I mean, all of the horses that are 1, 2, 3, 4 in here, what would they be in this race?
You notice
I mean,
that
not
Greg
the
put the
one.
fan over by where he sits?
I did.
I'm just
You know,
pointing
there's
that
also
out.
another fan here, right? There's a fan kicking in. There's a fan working right now. Yeah, big old.
So Greg's got 2 fans,
2
and I
by
have
2,
none.
2,
It'll be
24 by
good for my
24
winter
working.
jacket.
Yeah,
You'll
be all right.
Such an idiot.
What are you supposed to do here? I mean, this is another example. Now, she's had some chances. She has a year-plus layoff on her card. She has 5 chances to break her maiden.
I agree. But she's run okay in her last couple starts. You know, I thought she ran fine last time. I don't think it was a great effort, but it's supposed to be the effort.
And the alternatives.
Right. Well, you've got
really have to step up.
You've got the 3 coming out of the Ocean Fire race, and obviously Simply Misread is the one who ran the best race. Having said that, as we look at Simply Misread, Fleet Stepper was a first-time star for Clement, and Matador Moon a firster for John Terranova. I'm going to be honest with you. The one that I kind of want is Matador Moon. I thought that horse could improve. You know, and keep in mind, for people looking to say, well, Joel Rosario was on last time. Joel's at Keeneland.
For the week.
And John Velasquez, his agent, is Ron Anderson, who's the same agent as Joel Rosario.
Yep.
So I actually think it's kind of a positive that Johnny's showing up. And this maybe Ron is just, you know, they're a good client, and he's, you know, he's keeping, you know, he's doing him a favor riding him. But if Joel said this horse just can't run, I think this horse can run a little bit. Blinkers on, might need the blinkers. So I'm gonna use sort of the same as you.
Yeah.
I'm going to use all of them. You know,
just
mostly,
a
little more 4, but 2, 6, 2,
2, 6, 7.
2, 6, 7, 2, 4, 6, 7.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know where else you
hard
go.
to find. I was about to say, it's really hard to find. I mean,
Toast and Jam.
Wicked Happy did a little running in that race.
I guess
in
Toast
the
and
Ocean Fire
Jam.
race.
Yeah, I mean, Fleet Stepper was terrible. I can't take Wicked Happy. I don't like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
I guess she's
whatever.
not impossible. I guess Toast and Jam's not
There's a
impossible.
lot of horses that aren't impossible. If Come Storming shows up, they're all running for second line.
Well, she runs her last couple races. She's the worst to beat.
Yeah.
I don't disagree. What else? Excited for the weekend stakes preview?
We got 14 tomorrow. We got 14
Well, there's a lot of race at
stakes.
Keeneland.
8 over the weekend at Keeneland. We got a couple here.
What-
The Ruffian and the Winter Memories, obviously. Got to keep an eye on the weather now as well.
What do you think of Swiss Skydiver running in the Bluegrass?
You know, I actually talked to Ken McPeak on Red Brand Radio yesterday, and there were a lot of things that went into the
You
decision.
think it's tough getting a word in edgewise with me? Must be even tougher with Kenny.
You know, obviously the biggest factor with the one thing that's for them, they felt very confident that she was going to handle the boys and wanted to see if she was Derby worthy. But obviously the Ashland's a grade 1 and the Bluegrass is a grade 2, and she's not a grade 1 winner yet. But what he did say was, he said 2 things. He has enough Oaks points if this experiment goes the wrong way, and En Voutante, who he is very, very high on,
She's not
who
winning.
isn't in the Ashland,
She's not winning.
has no Oaks points.
Okay.
So he kind of wanted to keep Swiss Skydiver out of En Voutante's way to
wait a
maybe
second.
get her some point. This is all I'm telling
Anybody
you.
who believes he's running Swiss Skydiver
No.
to help out on Vutante, so let's take her out of the equation. Let me tell you,
I
the
think
worst
he
thing,
thinks it helps
the
En
worst
Voutante's
thing that will
chances.
happen to her is if she runs 1-2 in a very subpar Bluegrass, and she ends up running the
Well, I'll
Derby and
say
not the
this.
Oaks. That's the worst thing that will
I
happen
feel
to her.
like the way Ken McPeak sounded yesterday, she'd have to win, and I think she'd have to run really, really well, even in victory, to go on to the Derby.
We'll revisit that conversation sometime in late August or early September, but I hear you. The pace scenario didn't work out well for her. She doesn't have a grade 1 win in that Ashland. She'd have been a strong
that's what
favorite.
and he said. That was obviously, kind of said that was the only factor that was a negative for him. That he thought,
big
you know,
factor.
but he, you know, like he said he
We'll
felt
see.
like there was enough points, and
Add some spice to the weekend.
it sure does. My girl Dunbar Road's running down at Delaware Park.
I think you're a little higher on Dunbar Road than you should be. Don't be afraid to pick against. She'll win at Delaware.
Just hope they all get to the Breeders' Cup Distaff in one piece.
But don't be afraid to pick against Rushing Fall in the Jenny Wiley. Don't be afraid. You know, Bob hasn't called you. Anyhow.
Bob never called me back.
That's right. Bob hasn't called you. So maybe you want to show him and pick against Rushing Fall because she could be vulnerable in there. Anyhow, if you're not a member of Naira Bets, head on over to NairaBets.com. They're speaking of Rushing Fall. I mean, what a segue that was.
You're a genius, Andy.
I really am. She was in my head because of the.
Of course.
We will match up a $200 deposit. Use promo code MATCH200. Head to NairaBets.com and join Naira Bets. Download the app on your phone. It's free. It don't cost nothing. Anthony, a pleasure as usual.
We'll do it one more time downstate tomorrow, my friend.
All right.
You're leaving me for the weekend.
All right.
But you're leaving me with acacia, so it's not the worst thing in the world.
I'll be in my apartment texting you, preparing to
sure
come to
you will.
Saratoga. Anyhow, Johnny I up next with a reprise of the Scratches and Changes.
Fellow racing fans, and once again, welcome to beautiful Belmont Park. Mostly sunny skies, the temperature in the mid to upper 80s. Main track fast, the turf courses are firm, and the portable rails are up at 18 feet on both the Widener and the inner. Jackpot carryover today in the Empire 6 of $400,000. In today's first race, a rider change on number 3, Truish, to Raylu Gutierrez. Raylu Gutierrez rides the 3, and all horses will carry 1 pound over. In today's second race, a rider change on the 1, Vinchetto, to Heman Harkey. Heman Harkey rides the 1. Scratch 3, Stony Bennett, and scratch the 5, Zonic. Second race, scratch numbers 3 and 5. In the third race, numbers 1 and 6 will be 2 pounds over. Race 4 will kick off the Empire 6. And we have these overweights. These horses are 2 over. Numbers 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and 9. No changes in the fifth. In the sixth race, scratch number 1, Sky Queen. Scratch the 1, Sky Queen. And with the exception of number 8, all horses will be 2 pounds over. Seventh race, scratch number 8, Arithmetic. Scratch the 8, Arithmetic. In race 8, we now have a rider change on the 1A, Excess Capacity, to Raylu Gutierrez. Raylu Gutierrez rides the 1A, Excess Capacity. Numbers 2 and 5 are 2 pounds over. Ninth and final race today, scratch 1, Acting Chipper, and 1A, We Are Family. Scratch 1 and 1A. A rider change on the 12, Queen Dave, to Heman Harkey. Heman Harkey on the 12. And these horses are 2 pounds over. Numbers 2, 3, 5, 8, 10, and 11. Fast and firm here at beautiful Belmont Park with an Empire 6 jackpot carryover of $400,000. And a mandatory payout is coming up this Sunday, closing day, July the 12th. The opener in 27 minutes at 1:15.
No sport in the world brings the wins home like racing. It's one-of-a-kind, high-speed, high-stakes action, and Naira Bets takes you there. Place your bets and watch the races live from anywhere. With Naira Bets, make easy, secure deposits and promotions every day to earn reward points or cash. Download the Naira Bets app or visit NairaBets.com. New members, sign up now for a $200 deposit match with promo code MATCH200.
Ladies and gentlemen, we now have a scratch to report in the 8th race today. In race 8, scratch number 1, Cobra Sophie, part of an entry. Race 8, scratch the 1, Cobra Sophie.